I admire a lot about you, but you're not much good to me in your current condition, Jack stated. We have your back. Take some time off. Regardless, you have earned it. When we learn something new, you will be the first to know. I looked at Jack's face and understood he was close to ordering me to take time off. The professional side of me recognized he was correct. I needed to step back and decompress. He was also correct that I had a good group of people behind me. After some thought, I nodded in agreement. You're correct, Jack, I finally said. I just need to grab a few items from my desk before I see Alice. Mike, you made a good decision, Jack replied with a wry smile. Go ahead, do what you have to do. We will be in touch. Keep me in the loop. I will, I told him. Thanks. I went to my office and opened up my expenditure report, which included copies of receipts for the days I was in Seattle. Then, I transferred the 2 downloaded videos to a thumb drive. I changed my out-of-office email auto-response message and packed up my belongings. On the way out, I noticed Jack smiling and nodding his head. I smiled back and left. I arrived at the building where Alice Hawkins worked, parked, and went inside. I was about 15 minutes early, but I knew Alice would not mind. I checked in with the receptionist and was sent to the waiting area. A few minutes later, she led me to Alice's office. Good morning, Mr. Jacobs, Alice spoke as she extended her hand. Mr. Iverson advised me to expect you this morning. Would you like a cup of coffee? The shop on the first floor serves an excellent caramel mocha. That would be great, Miss Hawkins, I said. As I started to take money out of my pocket, Alice stopped me. My treat, Sally. Would you mind running down for me? 2 big caramel mochas. Get yourself something as well, Alice said as she took money from her purse. Of course, Miss Hawkins. Thank you, the lovely young receptionist stated as she collected Alice's money. After Sally had left, Alice motioned to the front of her desk, so I sat down. Mr. Iverson informed me that you have been served with divorce papers, Alice spoke. That's correct, Miss Hawkins, I responded. Please, Alice, do you have the paperwork with you? Yes, I do, I told her, opening my briefcase. I grabbed the envelope and gave it to her. Alice read over the papers, frowning. When she finished, she placed the papers down and scowled at me. There are very severe charges being leveled here, Alice eventually spoke through tight teeth. Is there evidence of infidelity? Because if there is, you should be aware that I do not represent cheats. There is proof, but none of it will implicate me. If you are interested, I can show you. If not, I'll look for someone more objective to handle my case, I informed her sharply. She seemed to shrink slightly at that. Mr. Jacobs, please show me, Alice said, taking the packet of images. I saw her eyes widen as she flipped through them. She shook her head and glanced at me as she concluded. Can you refute this? She asked. Absolutely, I told her while standing up with my cane. Alice looked surprised as I unbuckled my belt and slipped my pants. Jacob, please, that isn't essential, she explained. I will determine what is necessary. I let out a growl. Her gaze shifted to my exposed right thigh. She sighed, shocked. I nearly lost this leg while serving my country. I spent months in the hospital undergoing surgery and physical therapy, and I had to learn to walk again, I hissed. I still can't put my weight on that knee like the man in the images can do. Do you believe me now, Miss Hawkins, or do I move my business down the street? You're claiming these photographs were fabricated? Alice inquired. I'm not making any allegations, Miss Hawkins. I'm telling you those photographs are completely faked. On top of that, I have expenditure reports and receipts that show I was in Seattle, Washington, when the images were taken. I am fine, but even I cannot be in 2 places at once. Now, tell me, will you represent me, or should I go somewhere else? I will take your case, Mr. Jacobs, Alice finally said, handing back the photographs. Please pull your pants back up. When Sally came with our coffee, I pulled up my trousers and tied my belt. She looked at me puzzled. Is everything okay? She asked. Simply proving a point. Everything's fine. I told her. Before I took my seat, Sally looked to Alice for confirmation. Everything's fine, Sally, thank you, she murmured as Sally handed her the change from her coffee purchase. Sally smiled and exited the office. Alice gazed at me before sipping her coffee. I apologize for doubting you, Mr. Jacobs. I hope we don't have to go through this again. Please call me Mike, I said, and I accept your apologies. I hope I don't have to go to court, but I will if I need to prove my argument, I told her. Alice grinned at that. I see that your reputation precedes you, Mike, and I doubt you'll have to do that, but to be honest, it's wonderful to know you're willing to go above and beyond if necessary. What more have you got for me? I took out my phone and showed Alice the video I recorded of my confrontation with Allison. She grimaced while watching the video and then handed the phone back. So, your wife has retained Alice and Cartwright, Alice spoke, she has quite a reputation as well. Ethics do not appear to be an issue for her, according to the video. I would like a duplicate of it. It will come in handy when I make a complaint against her. Complaint? Yes, that video depicts multiple ethical infractions and at least one possible criminal act. Furthermore, she accompanied you to your home without a police officer, and this is exceedingly unique. What else have you got? I handed her the thumb drive containing the 2 videos I captured from my monitoring system. Alice gazed at both of them, a smile appeared on her face. So, I asked, will you add these to her complaint? What's this about drawing a gun on Miss Cartwright? Did you actually draw a gun on a court officer? Yes, why? Alice inquired. She nodded as I described my experiences with the task force. You believed maybe your wife or Miss Cartwright had something or someone ready to ambush, drug, or assault you. What about that? Yes, I said, in reality, I was shot in a very similar circumstance. I see, Alice said, fortunately for you, Mike, I'm aware of the task force and some of its tactics. I've represented a number of the folks your task force has assisted. I'm sure Miss Cartwright will attempt to make a point of it. Do not worry, I have things under control. Thank you, I replied. So let me see if I've got this correctly. You own the house you shared with Samantha, right? Yes, it was passed down to me by my grandparents long before I met Samantha, I explained. How about your bank accounts? Samantha closed 80% of our accounts, and Alice froze the remaining ones. Alice glanced at me in shock. She stopped the accounts after your wife got 80%? Correct, I stated. There was no legitimate cause for this other than pure vindictiveness and an attempt to slow you down and prevent you from retaining legal services. Why are they doing all of this to you? Alice asked. Isn't that the $64,000 question, counselor? I asked cynically. Hopefully, your company's investigator will come up with some answers, Alice spoke. Yes, Mr. Iverson informed me that Mr. Torres will handle the case. I'm looking forward to hearing what he finds out, I told her. First things first, I need to lift the restraining order and get you back into your home. Then I need to get your assets recovered. In the meantime, I will respond to this petition with one of our own. Have you got a copy of your prenuptial agreement? Yes, I do, I told her, grabbing it from my briefcase. Alice checked it over, put it away, and handed me a checklist. It will probably take me a number of days to work this out. Do what you can from the checklist. Are you prepared for funds till we receive the money back into your account? Yes, I will be okay, I told her. All right, Mike, I got it from here. I shouldn't need to tell you not to do something stupid in the meanwhile, but I'm going anyway. I do not want to have to bail you out of jail. Not a problem, Alice, I told her with a chuckle. I have things under control. No, you don't, she replied, at least not yet. Your cheating pig of a wife has just issued you with divorce papers, falsely accused you of infidelity based on faked proof, forced you out of your home, taken a significant amount of money, and intends to steal the majority of your assets as well. That's just for starters, but we'll get this under control. We exchanged contact information and finished the encounter. On the way out, I dropped by Sally's desk and paid a substantial retainer. Then I left, feeling like I had some control over the situation. I stopped for lunch and got a call between bites of my cheeseburger. When I noticed it was from Jack, I answered the phone. "How did things go for Alice?" he asked. "Went well," I said. "I hope something happens soon." "Good," Jack replied. I chatted with Bill and Oscar. They aren't aware of anything right now, but Oscar has indicated he'll see you later this afternoon or tonight. I believe he will want some backstory. I told him where you hang out. Not an issue, I'm certain he does. I said anything else. Terry has some information for you. He is sending you an email with his summary thus far. I don't want to speak too much on the phone, but I'll tell you this. It turns out that Miss Cartwright also handled Samantha's previous divorce. Interesting, I said. I suspected you may say that, Jack said. Anyway, I cannot hear the television in the background. Are you at the new sports bar and grill? Yeah, I told him I was eating a big cheeseburger. Actually, not awful. Maybe I'll give it a shot one of these days. Jack stated, "You take care of yourself, and I do not want to see you here tomorrow." I get it, got it, boss, I replied. Good, by the way, great job on the monthly report. It appears that things are improving out west. Thanks, I also noticed this. Okay, I'll let you go. I'll talk to you shortly, Mike. We ended the call, and I returned to my burger. I was almost finished when my phone broke. I received a text message from Terry. Alvin Morrison, financial planner, Tri-States Financial Services, a nearby location and phone number were then provided. I acknowledged the SMS and received a nearly immediate response. More to come, we will send an email. Thanks. I wrote back, that was quick. We are the finest, boss, he responded. I replied to his message with a thumbs up emoji and phoned Alvin's number. To my surprise, he responded after the first ring. Thank you for recognizing Tri-States Financial Services as the finest in the business. I'm Alvin Morrison. How can I help you safeguard your financial future now? I was caught off guard for a brief minute. At first, I assumed this was a recording, but then I realized it was a real person. Yes, my name is Michael Jacob. I'd like to contact you as soon as possible, I responded. Absolutely, Mr. Jacobs. I would love to meet you, Alvin stated. I just happen to have an opening at 1 p.m. Does that work for you? I looked at my watch before responding. That would give me about an hour, assuming I could complete my burger within the next 10 to 15 minutes. Yes, it would be ideal. I'll meet you at 1 p.m. Thank you, I said. I am looking forward to seeing you, Mr. Jacobs, Alvin enthusiastically stated. Before we finished the call, I ran a fast Google search to check how much guys like Alvin earned in an hour and made a mental note of it. I had no intention of acquiring any of his services at this time. Still, I decided to compensate him for his time and whatever information he might supply. I left after finishing my lunch. As I drove away from the parking lot, I heard a phrase from an old song on my vehicle's sound system. The witch's promise was approaching. He believed he was listening while giggling. You got that right, I spoke to no one in particular. I finally arrived at the building where Alvin worked, parked, and entered. I presented myself to the receptionist, who led me to Alvin's office. I spotted a decently tall, lanky man, a few years younger than myself, dressed in a business suit, white shirt, and tie. He grinned as he stood and shook my hand. Good afternoon, Mr. Jacobs, he said in welcome. Would you like a cup of coffee? Of course, I said. Sitting down, the receptionist asked how I enjoyed my coffee before leaving and returning a few moments later with a steaming mug. I thanked her and took a drink, satisfied with the flavor of the hot brew. So, Mr. Jacobs, what can I do for you today? Are you wanting to invest or establish a retirement portfolio? We provide some of the greatest packages in the market, and I guarantee a good return on your investment, Alvin joyfully stated, smiling throughout. I wondered if the smile had been surgically placed onto his face. Please, call me Mike, I explained, attempting to put him at ease before getting into the real reason for my visit. Okay, Mike, and feel free to call me Alvin, he continued with a steady smile. Thanks, Alvin, I responded, almost feeling bad about what I was going to do next. I'm sorry, but I'm not here to purchase any of your services. I'm here to inquire about your divorce from Samantha Green. Alvin's smile vanished, and his face turned grim. I'm sorry, Mr. Jacobs, but it is not up for discussion, I'm afraid. I will have to ask you to go now, Alvin let out a roar. I took out a little stack of $100 bills from my pocket and counted 3 as his eyes widened. I understand this is a sensitive topic for you, Alvin. I intend to reimburse you for your time and any information you may supply. I assume financial planners in this area earn around $140 per hour. I am willing to pay you $1,300 for the same length of time. I responded with $300 bills in my hand. I noticed him looking at the money. He contemplated my offer, then his demeanor softened. That is quite generous of you, Mike, he eventually spoke. I just have one question before I decide whether or not to accept your offer. Anything, I told him. Are you a private investigator or a police officer? I am not. I used to be a federal agent, but it was a long time ago. What happened before this? I said, pointing to my leg. He looked where I pointed at the cane, then nodded his head. All right, he replied. I accept your offer. I handed him the bills. Thank you. You are welcome. Would you mind if I recorded our conversation? I want to make sure I get everything correct. That's all right, he replied, shrugging his shoulders. I took out my phone and began the audio recording app. Interview with Alvin Morrison, I spoke into the recorder, adding the date and time. So, Alvin, what can you tell me? He began by saying, there wasn't much to tell. Samantha and I met in college. We shared a few lessons, and I was drawn to her. We dated, fell in love, and did the typical stuff. We were married right out of college. She took me to visit her father, Jacob Green. I asked, yes, him? He despised me from the start. I know he's wealthy, but I never imagined him to be so rude and profane. I actually chuckled at that. Anyway, everything proceeded smoothly for nearly 5 years. We were discussing having children and buying a house, basically everything young married couples talk about. I arrived home from work one day and found her at the kitchen table with another woman. At first, I thought she was Samantha's buddy from the legal office where she worked. Would that be Hempstead? I asked. Alvin nodded. Yes, that would be the one. Anyway, I walked into the kitchen and said hello. The other woman handed me an envelope and told me I had been served. I looked up and saw Samantha accusing me of infidelity. Have you ever cheated on her? Never, I adored Samantha. I know I'm not the strongest or most handsome person, but I still liked her. Furthermore, I would never harm her in any way. Fine, did they possess evidence of this supposed adultery? I asked the other woman, who told me that Samantha's lawyer had given her a smaller packet containing pictures. She threatened to send them out to my friends, family, and even coworkers, claiming to have more in presenting a video unless, that is, I signed the documents there and then. Naturally, I declined to sign them until I could consult with a lawyer. Samantha stated I had to leave immediately and that she also had a restraining order. Many of my belongings were already packed by her. If I didn't sign, her attorney threatened to use the other evidence she had against me. When I went to check into a motel after leaving, none of my cards would work. That's when I discovered Samantha had deleted everything from our accounts. Our savings of more than $100,000 were completely depleted. In the end, my parents hosted me. They gave me enough credit to visit a lawyer, but the lawyer was essentially useless. I returned to the condo to gather more belongings and maybe reason with Samantha. I overlooked the protective order. Anyhow, when I arrived there, she was in bed with some pig. I snapped and followed him. However, he was far larger than I was. I needed to be brought to the hospital in an ambulance after he severely beat me and kicked my behind. I was shackled to the bed when I woke up. At that point, I was informed that I was being placed under arrest for breaking a restraining order and having illicit graphic videos. Following my release from the hospital, I was brought to the police station. The caseworker detective found that the pictures on my phone were taken after I was rendered unconscious. Thus, even though the charges were withdrawn, the harm had already begun. I got let go from my job. My entire life essentially fell apart. And what about the allegation that you broke the restraining order? It turns out that was also a fabrication. No restraining order was in place. Furthermore, the documents Samantha's attorney handed me weren't registered with the court. That didn't matter, though. In the end, I was locked up for a weekend. Alvin spat. How come, then? Alvin snarled as they started to destroy me in every manner they could. When it was all done, I had nothing left, even though I lost my work. I was still required to pay the condo's mortgage and maintenance. In an attempt to stay afloat, I grabbed any job I could. It's only now that I'm starting to see the bright side. That I finally made it on here, the passageway. Do you still possess the photos they sent you showing your purported adultery? I inquired. Indeed I do, in actuality, Alvin stated as he took out his briefcase. He produced a tiny, frayed envelope and gave it to me. Do you store them in a briefcase? Surprised, I asked. My parents are the ones I still live with, and I would be devastated if they saw them. I've been intending to discard them for a while now, but I haven't had the time, Alvin explained. I understood and nodded. Then I glanced through the photos, and I was stunned by what I saw. Allison handed me some pictures, and they looked just like the background and the postures she had chosen. The woman in the photos appeared to be the same person as well. This series of photos differed in just two ways. First, there were differences in the time and date stamps. Furthermore, the man appeared somewhat leaner and shorter in these series of pictures. Apart from that, they looked the same. Do you mind if I hold on to these for a little while? There's someone I know who can examine these photos, I asked. I couldn't care less if you kept them, said Alvin. I'm grateful, I stated. Tell me, have you thought about filing a lawsuit against your ex-wife's lawyer? After speaking with a few attorneys, they informed me that nothing could be done. It seems that my income was insufficient for their preferences. I understand. How are you doing? For years I was a complete mess. Since then, I haven't even dated a lady. As you can guess, I'm still working on paying off my debt and struggle a lot with trust. At least you are no longer responsible for paying alimony or your condo's mortgage. In an attempt to provide him a glimmer of optimism, I told him. My words were greeted with a look of bewilderment and amazement. What topic are you discussing? He inquired. I have been paying that woman about $3,000 a month for almost 8 years for both the mortgage on the condo I used to live in and for alimony. I still owe the mortgage for the next 18 years plus a little over 2 years of alimony. Samantha sold the condo at the same time she got married again, I informed. Didn't you? No, Alvin said, giving a headshake. Nobody spoke up. Samantha's lawyer made sure it was directly deducted from my paycheck and placed into Samantha's account. After a fast calculation, I determined that Samantha owed this person slightly more than $210,000. There was more, and I realized that Samantha's financial records would require Terry's investigation. Somewhere, there was an enormous amount of money in an account in her name. Maybe she was giving Allison a portion of the cash she had extorted from Alvin. Could you please call HR department and ask them to provide you with the details of the money's transfer? I inquired. I'll ask. What if they told me they didn't have it? I'll then request that my attorney issue a subpoena to obtain that data. There's something really off about this. Although I'm not a lawyer, Alvin, it seems like you have a strong case against your ex-wife and her representative. How are you aware of this? Did Alvin ask, because Samantha just performed a very identical prank on me yesterday. Would you be willing to testify in court about this? I asked. Indeed, Alvin growled. Do you believe she should be arrested for this? I responded. I think that's a definite possibility, Alvin answered. Hell yes, I'll testify if you're good with that, Alvin added. I gave a nod of the head and got up using my cane. Alvin stepped up beside me and extended his hand, which I took. We'll communicate soon, I informed him. When I arrived at my hotel room, I took out the pictures that Alvin had given me and contrasted them with the ones I had. Indeed, they were almost the same. Reaching for my phone, I dialed Terry Torres. Are you anywhere near my hotel? I asked. In response, he inquired, I can be there in about an hour. What's going on? I have a brief task for you. You are familiar with me. I'm game for any task, Terry answered, his speech carrying a smile that I could hear. All right, I need you to stop by the hotel room. I would like you to look at something I have, I requested. I'm en route, Terry added. I checked my home surveillance system, and we ended the call. Alan and Samantha had left this morning, and nothing new had been saved as of yet. I grabbed my phone and dialed Alice's number. True Jacobs, when she answered the phone, she inquired. I heard her gasp with surprise when I informed her about my meeting with Alvin. After checking, I can confirm that the restraining order is indeed in effect. However, I would really like to talk to Mr. Morrison, I told her. I gave her Alvin's contact information, and we hung up. Terry was pounding on my door by then. Who's in charge? When I let him inside, he inquired. He seemed astonished when I showed him the photos that Alvin had sent me. Could you elaborate on this? I inquired. Terry said, comparing the two pictures. I've heard about this, but I've never actually seen anyone get away with it, Terry said in response to the question I posed. The photographs were deep fake. In essence, it would be very tough to refute phony images and films made by someone with the necessary expertise. In this instance, it appears that the person responsible is fabricating pictures of married couples having sex, using the same backdrop and two human figures. Pretty lazy, in my opinion. Do you believe we could convince a judge that they are fakes? I inquired. Yes, I am aware of a few photographers who are proficient in this field, but it would be simpler if we had the originals, which I believe are digital. Fine, pick a few from each batch and see what you can research on my behalf, I informed him. Anything further? Yes, for you. I did a William search. He moved here from New York and recently joined Hempstead. He is married and has 2 children, Terry said, handing me a picture of their family. Alan, a gorgeous blonde woman, and 2 attractive young children were there. For a lawyer, probably no older than 7 years old, he is incredibly foolish to be unfaithful to such a lovely family. Tell me about it, I said. Rhonda is her name. She is still in New York since she is a state representative and the heir to a reasonably well-off man. There's a prenup involved, I'll bet you $1 to a donut hole. Yes, I replied on both fronts. Terry stated, Williams would incur heavy costs. What more is there, Terry? I inquired. As you requested, I looked into Morrison's divorce. Quite simple. Samantha claimed in her divorce papers that she had committed adultery. She received a solid order for 10 years of spousal support, and the terms and conditions of the prenuptial agreement were upheld, barring a remarriage. Additionally, Alvin was mandated to pay their condo's mortgage. According to Terry, the decision does specify that the 2 parties will receive an equal share of the earnings from the sale of the property. Thus, he has been supporting someone who doesn't deserve it and paying Samantha for a mortgage that no longer exists. Do you know where the funds are going? I inquired. Cartwright opened a second account and had money deducted from Morrison's pay automatically. I couldn't uncover any information on that account, Terry stated. I'm not sure how Morrison survived for so long on what was left, to be honest. They didn't have kids, at least. Could you check into it if I could get you the account information to determine the amount she has in it? Naturally, to be honest, though obtaining any information might require a subpoena or a court order. Fulfill your obligations. See Alice if you require legal assistance. I'm assuming you've given her all of this already. Terry acknowledged that I had. And I'm sure Samantha is being followed by others. Of course, you are aware that they are also keeping an eye on you, I deduced. To be honest, I don't care. Allow them to squander their money and time by pursuing me. Terry laughed about that. I should probably get back to it now. I'll include what I currently have in an email to you, he stated. It seems like a plan. I eagerly await your report. Shaking his hand, I told him, well done, Terry. The compliment made him smile. Regards, manager, he said. That means a lot. He smiled as he left the room, and I noted the extra bounce in his step. I meant what I said, and Terry was a decent man. I took a seat at my laptop and opened the home security system. It was nothing new, though. I watched TV while sitting back on the bed and thinking about what to do next. I detested having to wait on other people all the time. I've always been a man who demands things of others, therefore, I was dying to wait. After a while, I heard someone knock on the door and quickly grabbed my cane and revolver. I got out of bed and made my way to the door. Who is present? I yelled. Warren Oscar. From the other side came the voice of a man. As I scanned the crowd, I noticed him displaying his credentials. Examine, is that you really, Mr. Jacobs? That's a special agent questioning you, Oscar stated in a friendly manner. When I opened the door, I saw his beaming face. Though he appeared to be in better form, he was a little older than when I had last seen him. I allowed him to enter by opening the door. Oscar, it's good to see you, I said, lowering the pistol. It's good to see you too, you elderly K9, he chuckled. I'm hoping you can recall how to secure that. That made me laugh. I believe I can handle it. It appears that anyone can now be made into a special agent, I joked. In actuality, though, I work as a deputy assistant special agent in charge. However, I'm okay with being a single special agent. I understand you're a very successful executive these days, Oscar remarked. Yes, that's what they've informed me, I replied. What has brought you from Fort Apache all the way out here? Do you recall Pat Witherspoon? I haven't heard that name in a very long time. She was the one who turned my first wife, you know, the person who warned me of the consequences of betraying Renee in the future. When Mona Larson performed her little Jedi mind trick, she passed away while under my care. I had no idea she was the ex-wife of Jake Green for all these years, and now you find yourself wed to her daughter. I was completely ignorant. No, of course you didn't, I told him. Then Oscar remarked, none of us knew about her family connections. After the autopsy, we ultimately decided to cremate her body. Even her body was unclaimed by anyone. It's kind of depressing, isn't it, considering who she was? All the agony and pain she inflicted was understandable. No, I don't, Oscar replied sourly. As far as I'm concerned, she killed Renee with her drugs and her games, and I still have a hospital full of her victims, men who were abused and tortured to the point of likely never recovering by Pat's goons. Mike, you were present, you got your fair share. One of them shot me, recall? In silence, I said, I'll never forget. Do you believe her daughter is carrying on her legacy? Oscar inquired. I'm not sure. She doesn't quite match the description, Mike. A lot of the older profiles are no longer functional these days. The game has completely changed. Instead of referring to themselves as Miss, they call themselves Sisterhood. Have you ever heard Samantha's attorney use that term? Never, said I. Tell me if you succeed, all right? Oscar begged. Yes, I replied. Samantha doesn't really suit the previous profiles, as I mentioned, but she could certainly do so with that lawyer of hers, Allison Cartwright. That name escapes me, Oscar pondered. Inform Wiseman of my plans. I'll send him and his study group to take a closer look. Watch what ideas they generate. He continues to work on the assignment. Yes, Oscar, I shouted. When he and his spouse aren't frightening the living daylights out of would-be Lotharios, Amy works for a company, and I believe that almost every management has made advances towards her. That made me laugh. I've already met Ron Wiseman and have observed him and his spouse using their wheel of death. They even demonstrated some of his knife skills for me. I felt sorry for the idiots who approached Amy. To paraphrase Mr. T, what is happening? Then anything fresh since your boss and I spoke? When Oscar inquired, I told him what I had discovered since this morning. When I informed him about the pictures, he was particularly curious. I can't help but wonder if this Cartwright has victimized other people in the same way, Oscar stated. Aside from you and Morrison, I will forward that to Wiseman. It sounds very much like there have been a few crimes committed here. While it might not be as involved as a task force, I definitely believe in going to jail. I'll put Wiseman on it immediately and get back to you on his findings. Regards, Oscar. Thank you very much, I uttered. What a smiling Oscar's friend. I best head back now. I'll be eating my butt if Rita's making a pot roast and I don't get home in time for supper. Yes, it is correct. You were the daughter of the boss since the last time I saw you. I assumed you had put on a few pounds. How is the situation right now? Fantastic, stated Oscar. This is the happiest I've felt in years. Give her and the kids my best, then I informed him. Mike, I'll take care of that. Regards, Oscar remarked, getting to his feet. No, my friend, thank you. We shook hands, and I told him. We said our last goodbyes as I led him to the door. After checking the time, I made the decision to get dinner. So, I picked up one of the downstairs restaurants and my cane. I enjoyed a delicious filet mignon, relaxed with a post-dinner drink by the poolside, and purchased a cigar from the gift store a few hours later. I went back to my room and felt a little more at ease because I knew Samantha would probably be home by then. I then showered, turned on my laptop, and accessed my home security system. Sam, Alan, and Allison have just entered the house. What, therefore, is so crucial that you were unable to inform me at work? Allison was questioned by Samantha. I received an update from the PI. Allison informed her that her husband had seen Alice Hawkins this morning. Thus, if you'd like to consult a lawyer, we were certain he would. Samantha, you're not understanding. Since Alice is a shark, getting the restraining order overturned will be her first move, and she'll be hunting for blood if I know her. There is more. Mike had an early afternoon conversation with your ex-husband, stated Allison. Samantha's face became white as I noticed. What did Alvin tell him? In your opinion, panicked Samantha inquired. Now everything Alice said, I assume, and we might be in serious trouble if your spouse pieces it all together. There is more. Mike served in the Home Front Security Task Force, according to my contact, with whom I spoke genuinely. Fierce, she went on. He wasn't kidding when he told your father he killed people, which made Samantha recoil. Allison went on, he really won a lot of medals for his work. The PI also gave me an update that Oscar Warren, one of his former co-workers, paid him a visit today. Although I'm not sure what they discussed, I can venture another educated guess. Why is that such a big deal? Still perplexed, Samantha inquired. We screwed, Allison remarked. If your spouse has the resources of a government agency that handles family disputes behind him, maybe it's time to introduce Mike to someone, stated Alan. That drive is still there in me. There's a lot of juicy material here. Imagine the consequences for the authorities if they find out that a former federal agent has a computer loaded with illicit, spicily titled videos. Say what? Said Alan. Allison, you can't put anything on his hard drive right now. It has been almost 24 hours since he last used his computer. In a minute, a forensic technician could detect that, Alan said. All right, then I'll email it to him. It could work, Allison suggested. But you must exercise extreme caution. Ensure that he is unable to trace it back to your PC. Regarding the account, what are your thoughts? Samantha asked. That account has hundreds of thousands of dollars, Allison said. I'll take care of that. What happens if none of this works? With worry evident in her tone, Samantha inquired. This is too much of a gamble, Allison warned her forcefully. That if this doesn't work and we can't get Mike to recover, our only option will be to make sure he has an accident when he never wakes up. Are you following what I'm saying? Samantha acknowledged Allison's words with a hesitant nod of her head. And Alan, are you getting this? Yes, I understand, he said to her. I also got it. When all else failed, all three of them planned to kill me. The woman to whom I had promised both my life and my love had just consented to my demise for the sake of money alone. It should have been obvious to her, of all people, that I disliked losing arguments, and I was not going to lose this one for sure. I took out my phone and placed my first call to my longtime FBI friend, Ryan Harper. He replied and stated, Special Agent Harper, this is Mike Jacobs. Ryan, I asked, how about an exclusive? You crusty old doctor, Mike. All I could think of was you. What's this exclusive you have for me? Asked Ryan. First of all, extortion and murderous conspiracy, I informed him. Yes, who is the sufferer? Me? You are. You certain about this? Startled, Ryan inquired. Indeed, I informed him. I had a video of them. Would you like me to email it to you? I'll give Sheriff Pratt a call after you send it to me. We've all been friends for ages. I assume you have my email address. It's on my list of contacts. Regards, Ryan. Thank you for that, I said, formatting the email before I started to send the video clip. I sent it. It is currently en route to you, I perceive, Ryan answered. After a short while, I could hear my phone's video playing in muffled sound. It's unbelievable that Samantha would harm you in that way. Hold on. I'll make the sheriff's call. For a few minutes, I could hear him conversing with someone on a different phone. Then he came back. All right, I'm sending someone to your residence right now. Sheriff Pratt. What on earth is happening? When I told Ryan what had happened over the past few days, he listened quietly. When I was done, I heard him whistle. That's just cold-blooded. Damn it, he shouted. I believe that. I informed him. Right now, where are you? Are you secure? Should I send someone to cover for you? Ryan inquired anxiously. I told him where I was and assured him it would be okay. When I was done, he replied, It appears that this is not a federal case, not yet anyhow. But feel free to call me if you need anything. Mike, are you hearing me? I understand, but once more, Ryan, thank you. Thank you very much. After we hung up, I noticed that the three conspirators were still speaking on my laptop. How about the former partner? Shall we also kill him? Ellen asked. No, not just yet. Why would two of Samantha's husbands be killed off so quickly? It would seem too fishy. I'll begin transferring the money to an offshore account tomorrow that we've been collecting from him and the others. After that's done, we'll assess Alvin again, thus I reasoned. There are more casualties. This ought to be a fascinating discovery. You seem to have experience with this, stated Alan. Allison gave a sly smile and answered, Let's just say this isn't exactly my first rodeo. After about 30 minutes of watching them talk, I noticed the reflection of flashing lights outside. I grinned, knowing that there was going to be a twist to their little story. I heard a knock at the door a short while later. Open the door, Sheriff's Department, a man's voice called out to me. Alan, Samantha, and Allison exchanged perplexed looks. Better still, open the door, Samantha, Allison informed Sam. Sam did as he was told and opened the door. "True?" Samantha asked. "Samantha Jacobs?" the deputy inquired. Samantha remarked, "That's me." "This is Deputy Jones, Deputy Smith. Would you kindly let us inside?" "Naturally," Deputy Samantha replied. The front room was entered by two deputies, one each for men and women. "Alan Williams, Allison Cartwright?" Smith inquired. The other two gave a nod of the head. "We are here to arrest the three of you. You've been taken into custody." "Reverse the direction, place your hands behind your back," Smith instructed. "In custody for what purpose?" Allison asked. "Conspiracy to commit murder and extortion," Smith said. Sam, Allison, and Alan looked at each other confused as Smith read their Miranda rights. "How about we shut up?" Alan hissed. "Say nothing to no one." "I understand your husband must have planted some bugs in the house," Alan told Samantha. "Did you know about it?" "No, I did not," Samantha said. "Shut up, you two," Allison commanded. "Say nothing. When we get to the county jail, I will arrange for representation. You have the right to be silent, so use it." The deputies completed their work and led the three conspirators out of my home. The footage terminated as the door was closed. I grabbed my phone and made my second call, this time to my lawyer, Alice Hawkins. "What has occurred, Mike? Why did you phone me after hours?" "I just wanted to let you know that Sam and her two collaborators have been detained," I responded. "What were you arrested for?" "Conspiracy to commit murder and extortion. I recorded their plot on video," I told Alice. "My God!" Alice exclaimed. "Can you get me a copy of the video?" "Already on it," I said as I was about to email the video. Alice told me, "This will undoubtedly help when I go to see Judge Banks about the restraining order." "Could that be Judge Kenneth Banks?" I asked. "One and the same." "Why do you know him?" "I staged an intervention on his behalf around 10 years ago," I mentioned. "Couldn't that be considered a conflict of interest?" "Have you acted on his behalf since then?" Alice inquired. "No," I told her. "That shouldn't be a problem. He may not even remember your name." "Maybe, but I doubt he forgot the intervention though, so don't worry. If he asks, I will tell him. Otherwise, we will say nothing," she told me. "When will you go before him?" I asked. "Tomorrow afternoon, 1 o'clock. I also have a motion to unfreeze your accounts and a demand that Samantha restore at least 35% of what she took. I'll be arguing those before Judge Banks at that time. Hopefully, with Samantha in custody, I will have wonderful news for you by this time tomorrow." "I'm looking forward to that," I told Alice. "As do I, Mike. Get some nice sleep tonight. I will talk to you tomorrow." We finished the call, and I made my third call of the evening, this time to Samantha's supervisor, Wilson Langley. He also happened to be Allison and Alan's boss as well. "Mr. Langley, this is Mike Jacobs. How are you doing this evening, sir?" "I was having a wonderful steak supper with a few buddies," he stated. I could hear background noise, implying he was at the country club where Pop frequently ate. "What can we do for you, Mr. Jacobs? Is there an issue with security in my office building?" "None that I am aware of, Mr. Langley. However, there is an issue with 3 of your staff." "What kind of issue?" Langley inquired. "A lawful one. They have been arrested," I informed him. As we spoke, Langley hissed. I could tell he had his phone covered while speaking to his dinner guests. Then he returned his attention to me. "Hold on, let me go somewhere a little quieter." I heard him leave the table and then speak, which took barely a few moments. "What is going on, Mr. Jacobs?" "As you are aware, my wife Samantha, your executive assistant, has filed divorce papers against me." "Yes, I am aware of it. I have video evidence of her, Alan Williams, and Allison Cartwright arranging my death. I also have evidence that they conspired to extort me," I informed him calmly. Given our business relationship, I felt I owed you to let you know. Damn, he spat. Do you have proof of this? Yes, sir. I have video from my own home. I have reason to suspect that there is more to the story, and I aim to find out. Do you suspect me or my firm of any unlawful activity? Langley asked quietly. Mr. Langley, I have no first-hand evidence of it, not at this time. But all three persons in this case work for you, I informed him politely. Yes, at present, this appears to be the case. However, everyone is entitled to a defense, Mr. Jacobs. They will have their day in court just like everyone else. And if your claims are genuine, I will terminate them. Is this sufficient? He asked. Yes, that will suffice, Mr. Langley, I replied. Good, thank you for bringing this to my attention, Mr. Jacobs. You are welcome, I ended the call. There was one more call. I considered the facts Terry had given me about Alan Williams before making my next decision. I dialed Alan and Rhonda Williams's New York phone number, expecting that Alan's wife would answer. I would like to speak with Rhonda Williams, I said. This is she, Mrs. Williams responded. My name is Michael Jacobs. I have some horrible news about your husband, Alan, I said. I heard her sigh before speaking. What is my spouse doing now? She inquired quietly. Your spouse has slept with my wife. I have undeniable proof of this. I have a video of them together, I told her. Damn him, Rhonda muttered. I warned him if it happened again, we were done. There is more, Mrs. Williams, I said. Please call me Rhonda, she added. Are you saying there is more? She asked. Yes, please call me Mike. Your husband has been arrested for conspiracy to commit murder and extortion. I have a hunch there will be additional charges. He and his collaborators are still being brought to the county jail, I said. My God, Rhonda muttered sadly. I really apologize for all of this. This is not your fault. Rhonda, he made his pick. Now he'll have to live with them. Yes, of course, you're correct. You say you have evidence? Yes, please send that to me, I told her. Rhonda gave me her personal email address, which I put into my contacts. I'll send you whatever I have as soon as we get off the phone. Again, I am sorry about this, as you stated, Mike. It is not your fault. Alan made the bed, now he must lie in it. Thank you for informing me, Rhonda expressed sadness, and I felt awful for her and her children. I was aware of the media firestorm that Alan's actions would create. We finished the call, and I followed through on my commitment. I sent her all of the videos I had of Alan, along with a small note of condolence. I had one more call to make, and I knew this would be the most difficult. I picked up my phone and dialed Pop, who responded after the second ring. Sam has been arrested, I replied quietly.